Hi, everyone. Welcome to Just One Thing from Swell. Really glad you're here and look forward to more people joining us today. And to those who will hear this later via recording. So, this is Just One Thing. We'll spend a few minutes today talking about the table process. As I get this, one of the features that many of our clients like most is our table feature. And today we're really just going to talk about some tricks and tweaks. Some people call these hacks and software, talk about best practices around the table process. And many of you already know how to work the table feature itself. So today we'll talk about some things that we do, that we know how to do, and some ways to help you enhance your table management game, so to speak. And we're really glad you're here. As always, the team at Swell is here to support you, and you can find us at support@swellfundraising.com. Today, there were many things I thought about going through today, and but picked these four because we always want to keep these short. And I realized the table process could be long if we really went deep. And so today we're going to talk about how to set up tables and tickets for enhanced guest support, meaning maybe a more complex way of setting up tables and tickets so that you can see certain things on the check-in app, things you might not have thought of. The second topic is the idea of creating partial tables and just how that ultimately starts to look in the table numbering process. The third is about really assigning individual tickets, and particularly a method for if you have a large group of individual tickets, and a trick for doing that. And finally, easy steps to add guests, to move guests around. And then if there's time, I did include just an outline of the table host process. We might not get to that today, but I thought that might be nice for everyone to have. Based on those who I saw pre-registered, at least, you guys are pretty strong table users, so you may not really need that. So glad to say that. So let's first get started by heading on. I'm going to share the next screen with you, and we will go to the next spot. So which is the software. So hold on one second. I'm going to reshare that again. So can you guys all see my dashboard? Okay, great. I just needed a reminder. Thank you. So I'm here in the setup area, and I'm going to go to the product section. And in products, there are several things that we can do. And this all goes toward thinking about the end at the beginning. And so, as you may recall, on our check-in app, we're able to show you obviously the guest name, the table number where they're seated, and also their ticket type. And sometimes you have guests that you want to seat in a certain location in the room, and internet is not allowing me to sort of pull up the different screens fast enough, I think, to do this. Well, I'm going to stick with it because I still want to get at it, but it's thinking a lot, and so I'm just going to let everybody know that it's taking the internet a bit to both handle the Zoom and handle um, showing my screen a lot. So it's going slower than I want it to go. So it's messing up my cadence a lot. But hey, thank you for the thumbs up. Appreciate that. So thanks, Jenny, for your support. And so
Hey,
back on it. Look at me going back into the mode. So what I wanted to show here for everybody is so goes to the first topic of creating tables and creating tickets that go with tables that really help you create a lot of clarity during the check-in process. And what I'm talking about is when you have an event where you may have sponsors and you may have guests that you want to sit at a certain location in the room, or have VIP tickets. And so, Jenny, if you would just circle around the general table and the platinum table, and you can see that several of these have different ticket types. And so, and what you can do is, if you'll hit the plus sign for me there, is one thing you can do is create a ticket, thanks, and make it active, but hide it from the public. And this is where you might put sponsor tickets, something that you don't want to sell on the front end of the website, but that you want to know who your sponsors are. Maybe you want to let an executive director know who came in on sponsor tickets, and it'll be very clear on the check-in app. And hit save, thanks, And then the next thing you might do is then create your tables, your sponsorships your table sponsors out of those using those tickets. You could even, you don't even have to hide those. You could be selling those on the front end. You could hide those just as Jenny did. And actually you could close that, Jenny. This one that was perfect. This was one where you could even go into one of the existing sponsorship tables, like the VIP table there that has VIP sponsor tickets, and you can change the ticket type. So in the case of, since everyone on our call or clients, everybody that sees this are clients, you might have an event that you've cloned and think, oh, I want to upgrade my process a little bit. And so you could go into your existing table products that are built in your product area and change the ticket type on there, so that any tables that you create. And so now if we go to tables and teams, and so often you're creating these sponsor tables because they send you a check. You could create that table. We could put in the Vance sponsorship right there. Thank you, Jenny Vance, for your sponsorship. And then select one of those sponsor types, maybe the platinum sponsor. Yeah. And knowing that all of those tickets that sponsor gets will be your sponsorship type ticket. So that's going to help you organize that. So everybody that comes in on that now has a different ticket than your general admission. So it's just one more way to you can save or save and not send. We need to talk about that. You can save and decide not to send the host the email, or you can save and send the table host email right there. So that's great. Thanks so much, Jenny. That's awesome. Now, if you might click on Event Tools for me and show the check-in app. There you go. And now, if you would, all of these guests have that in-person guest product, and there's one sponsor ticket. Oh, that's right, Jenny. Thank you for creating yourself as a table host guest. So now it very clearly in check-in, when Jenny comes to your event, it's going to show you that it's a sponsorship ticket. And if she needs to be treated a certain way, get a certain swag bag, your volunteers can now know that. So really wanted to get to that spot. So thanks so much. So the next thing we were going to talk about is just a second, I'm going to go to that myself too here. I was going to go back to something on my screen here. Yeah. So we want to talk about one thing we've seen, Jenny, if you'll go back to products. Is another trend that we've seen our clients use really well is the use of partial tables. So you might want to sell a table of 10, as a full table, but and you can see here we have a table of 10 at $2,000 for VIP. So maybe you want to sell a VIP table of 5 or 4. And so you can come into the system and when you click the plus sign, and you can create a table of hit the table active, and maybe you have 15 of those. It's not hidden. This would be for sale. And this is just, maybe call it a half VIP table. And it could be $1,000 instead of your $2,000 price. And it's in-person VIP, and maybe it's 5 tickets. So it's half of your 10-person table. And here you could just describe it as, half of a 10-person. And the important thing about that I really want to point out is once that's created, and then over in tables and teams, if you then create a table using that product. Thank you for your sponsorship, Battle Family. And use our half VIP table. You can put me there. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. And so now, one thing I wanted to point out here is, and so now on the screen, you can see the half VIP table, and the number of seats for that are now 5. As table host, I've received a link to invite the 5 guests or the 4 other guests in addition to myself to that table. But as those start to sell, what then you can do is, if you have multiple half tables, if you'll go and click on the battle table or battle sponsorship words, so we can open up the table. And so when you have multiple half tables like that, the trick is you don't need to actually merge the tables. Just give two tables the same number. So you could give me table number 6 for my battle sponsorship, but you could create a second table. Thank you. Half table 2. Mm-hmm. See if it'll go. It needs a type. Give it needs a half table type. Thank you. Awesome. Perfect. And so a couple things here, like if I were working a big event, yeah, you could give it table number 6. Mm-hmm. And then one quick thing to do is, yep, Jenny did it without me even saying it. Jenny clicked that number button or the little arrow to the right of number, and she sorted the numbers there. And so now you can kind of easily get a visual of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the double sixes that are lining up with your fives. So, and obviously this would line up in the download in the top right corner, and this is a good way to combine tables. So you don't have to actually combine tables when you use these partial tables. So and that's been a really nice thing that I've noticed clients doing of late. So it's been really it's been a good product that that some have tried to sell over this time. And sometimes we get that question a lot. The next is I want to talk about assigning individual tickets. Obviously, you have a lot of events that where you sell individual tickets. And so one thing that's a bit of a hack in the software is back in products. Jenny, you may know where I'm headed with this already, is to create a table type that doesn't have any tickets associated with it. And I don't know if you'd be willing to do that for me. You might be doing that already. Yes, thank you. Maybe there, yeah, 50, and you could just you'll want to hide that one from the public for sure, by the way. I've made that mistake before. Just 0. It doesn't matter what that is, actually, yeah. And you could give it a 0 number of tickets in the tickets per table and hit save. So now you've created this product that has no tickets associated with it. But if you then go into tables and teams, and create one of those tables and just you could call it table 57, right? These are your open tables, open table 1, open table 57, anything like that you want to do. And be sure to select the type, and you can select that empty table type. Mm-hmm. Yep, and it doesn't even need a host. That's great, thank you. And now what you can do is you can just go into tickets and then sort your ticket list by table team so that you can easily see who isn't at a table. And so now we've sorted, and you can see I'm a donor and Brooke Battle don't have seats yet. And so this gives you a way to go into I'm a donor and edit that. And then you can now assign I'm a donor to table 57. Table 57. And hit save. And then if we go back to tables and teams, right, you can see Jenny is or I'm a donor is at table 57 now. And what that did is it added a ticket to table 57. So as you add people to tables from the ticket screen, it's just going to add those individuals to that table. So one thing that I'm sure all of you have run into is if you create a table and then add them from the ticket side, it adds tickets. So you end up with a number 11 and a 12, and you can always go back and delete those empty seats as you've added. But we find that sometimes it's really easy to just create a $0 ticket spot if you want to do it. So yeah, and you can add tickets there. Yeah, trash them. That's great. Thank you so much. Perfect. And then finally, the last thing we really wanted to talk about is easy steps to adding guests and moving guests around. There's several steps to go through here with adding guests and moving guests around. But the first is, Jenny, if you just maybe open up the half VIP table, Brooke Battle, and click the number 5. Perfect. Open that. And say there's somebody at an existing table. that we want to move. And you realize, oh, I put, maybe scroll down a little bit. I think there's a Pam Beasley here. I put Pam Beasley at the office table, and I really want Pam at this other table. So, and you can just, it is really that easy. Jenny did it faster than I could say it. You literally just, and that's also a searchable area. So if you know that you need to move Jim with Pam, just search for Jim. Great. Yes, and there he is. And now we've moved Jim and Pam to this great table. I would like to sit at that table. So that's the easiest. Moving people around once they're at a table, very easy to do. The next thing I want to show you though is it does show you your loose tickets here. So if you click that person again, we've already shown you how to move a ticket over just to an empty table. But if you have an existing table and it's a sponsor that it's a sponsor that has 10 seats and only fills 9. And you can see the very first section of that drop down are your loose ticket holders. So what Jenny has highlighted there with ticket holders and my name, Brooke Battle, that ticket is not at a table. And so we give you that information first in the system. So you can go ahead and click that right there, bam, yep, and assign it. And so you've now just assigned my ticket to that seat. A question we get a lot is, what if I had a VIP ticket and that table had regular tickets? I still have my VIP ticket. So it just took my ticket and me and moved assigned to that table, and it replaced that ticket. So the math works as well. So you're all set there and all. So that's one way. The next thing that we have a lot is adding people. And so there are a lot of ways to add someone to a table. One would be is to click that little person there right here and say the name isn't in the system and click new fundraiser, and you can add that person's information right there. You can do that. I'm a donor too. That's perfect. Thank you. Hey, right. And you can put in just default emails. If they don't give you an email address, that's totally fine. And just hit save. And now hit assign. That's a really important next step because you created that person in our system, and now you get to assign them to that table. And when you did this, it sends them a ticket and has seated them at the table. So that's a simple way to do it. If you have a lot of people, so say it's an empty table, thank you, Jenny, for yes. Now we can see I'm a guest with a ticket at the half table too, just as it was typed in. That's perfect. The next thing that happens a lot though, let's say, look down there at the Vance sponsorship with 20 seats and 19 available. We all know that character, right? And this Jenny is going to send you 19 names by email, right, Jenny? And she didn't use the link. It's asked you to enter the names. One of the easier ways to do that is if you'll hit the close button, is you can always go into their link. And so if they want you to essentially do it for them, you can hit the Vance sponsorship and hit the second button there. And this is just a little quicker. This is a quicker way of entering those guest names. And if they don't give you in emails, this is again where sometimes people put in a default email just over and over. And this is the page where you could go and enter those names. You would just enter all those names and hit invite guests. Now you may be thinking this just invites the guests. It actually doesn't send those guests a ticket. And the reality is that without their email addresses, they weren't going to get a ticket anyway, but you have their names. And as our system, as those who use it so well, you're welcome to hit invite if you like. Yeah, so now we have all of those guests in on this table. And you might refresh your screen just a little bit so we can see the updated numbers now. And so now we can see that her empty seats for the Vance sponsorship have declined to 17 empty seats, and we now have 3 guests. And just as a reminder, in Swell, you can go ahead and confirm these guests, which would create a ticket and would send them a ticket. But the other thing is we treat all of these guests as if they're coming. So even your unconfirmed guest, and you feel free to hit the check-in app. Yeah. So even the unconfirmed guests will show on the check-in app. That guest number 3 right there with the asterisk beside its name is the unconfirmed guest. So when it comes to the reminder email that goes out, it goes out to confirmed and unconfirmed. The check-in app shows confirmed and unconfirmed. So in every way, we treat the unconfirmed guest as if that guest is coming until we have different information. And we find that just takes all the pressure off of that confirmation process. And in the absence of information, that is the person that's coming. And what Jenny is showing you right now is you can check that guest in, no problem. And when you check them in, it confirms them and that hits your ticket list as well. So all that data comes back together. So you don't have to completely overthink the unconfirmed because our system has tried to accommodate that for you where we just treat them all the same way. So if you can just get those names in there so that those names are at the door for those guests, then you are 99% there. So you've done what you need to do. So and that link that Jenny showed you is really one of the easiest ways to issue to do that if you have a lot of names and if a sponsor sends you those names. So um, and the last thing I just wanted to point out is we do have several resources on the help desk, including the table host registration process. I'm not going to go through that here today, but if you need some documentation to support your host, a lot of that is on our help desk also to help you on the host side so that you aren't having to fill in those names and that you've really done all you can to help your hosts um, help your host help you, right? So, and with that, are there any questions?